All right, let's dive into one of the most intense and politically charged prophecies in the entire book of Jeremiah. We're talking about a story of a divine command, high-stakes international politics, and a prophet who is literally forced to become a walking, talking symbol of submission to an enemy empire. So it all kicks off with this really bizarre and, frankly, unforgettable image. The prophet Jeremiah being told by God to strap on an ox yoke, the heavy wooden harness meant for an animal. And the question that just hangs over this entire chapter is, why? Why on earth would he do that?
Well, to really get what the yoke means, we first have to understand the world it showed up in. This wasn't just some random act. It was a piece of shocking political theater with a deadly serious message for a kingdom that was right on the brink of total collapse.
Okay, so the timing here is absolutely critical. Jeremiah chapter 27, verse 1, sets this prophecy early in the reign of King Zedekiah. Now, some ancient manuscripts say Jehoiakim, but either way, the situation is the same. Judah is completely stuck between these two superpowers, Egypt and the rising Babylonian Empire. The tension is off the charts, and this prophecy is about to determine the fate of Judah's last king. The command from God in verse 2 is so direct and so physical. Make thee bonds and yokes, and put them upon thy neck. See, this isn't just about Jeremiah giving a speech. He has to become the message. He's told to literally embody this prophecy, turning himself into a living, breathing political statement that nobody could possibly ignore. And the symbol he's told to wear? Oh, it's unmistakable. A yoke was not just a farming tool back then. Everybody, and I mean everybody, understood its political meaning. To be under the yoke of another king meant you were their subject, their vassal. It was a clear, humiliating symbol of complete and total submission. But here's where it gets even more interesting. Jeremiah's intended audience wasn't just the people of Judah. Nope. This walking, yoked-up message was a direct command for an entire regional coalition that was, at that very moment, plotting a full-scale rebellion. Verse 3 pulls back the curtain and reveals that ambassadors from 5 of their neighbors, Edom, Moab, Ammon, Tyre, and Sidon, were all right there in Jerusalem, meeting with King Zedekiah. What were they doing? They were trying to form an anti-Babylonian military alliance, and it's right into this secret war council that Jeremiah is supposed to march and deliver his yokes, a direct, in-your-face counter-message to their plans. And notice the specific title God uses to kick off this message in verse 4, the Lord of Hosts. Now, that isn't just a religious title. That's a military title. It means commander of armies, both the ones on earth and the ones in heaven. By using it right here, God is declaring supreme authority over every single king and army in that room. He's basically saying, you guys are busy making your war plans, but you seem to have forgotten who the real commander-in-chief is. This brings us to the theological core of the whole prophecy. God is about to explain why these nations have to submit, and his reasoning rests on a claim so absolute, so stunning, it would have just floored everyone who heard it. In verse 5, God grounds his authority in the most fundamental reality there is, creation itself. He says, I have made the earth, and have given it unto whom it seemed meet unto me. The logic is really simple. The one who made the world gets to decide who runs it. This completely reframes political power. It's not something kings earn, it's something the Creator delegates. And then comes the bombshell in verse 6. God declares that he has given all their lands to Nebuchadnezzar, the pagan king of Babylon, and then he calls him my servant. Can you just imagine being in Jerusalem and hearing that? The foreign conqueror, the enemy, is being given a title of honor usually saved for heroes like Moses or King David. It's shocking. And this is such a crucial distinction to make. The title servant here does not imply that Nebuchadnezzar is righteous or faithful. It means he's an instrument. He is simply a tool in God's hand, chosen to carry out a specific purpose, which in this case is divine judgment. He serves God's plan without even knowing it, kind of like how a hammer serves the will of a carpenter. But even this divinely appointed power has an expiration date. Verse 7 sets a very clear limit. It says that Babylon will only rule until the very time of his land come. This is actually pointing forward to the year 539 BC, when Babylon itself would get conquered by Cyrus the Great of Persia. The message is crystal clear. God controls the rise of empires, and you better believe he also controls their fall. So, with God's absolute authority established, the message to Judah and its allies boils down to this stark ultimatum. They're presented with 2 paths, and each one leads to a radically different destiny. It's simple. Submit or perish.
Verse 8 lays out the horrific cost of defiance in no uncertain terms. To resist Babylon is to choose the classic, brutal consequences of ancient siege warfare, the sword, famine, and pestilence. And this isn't just talk. It's a chillingly accurate prediction of exactly what would happen to Jerusalem when it finally did rebel and was destroyed in 586 BC.
You can imagine this put Jeremiah in direct conflict with a lot of other prophets. The popular prophets were preaching what everyone wanted to hear, a message of rebellion, of national pride, of victory. But according to verses 9 and 10, their optimistic prophecies were a complete lie that would lead the nation to ruin. Jeremiah's message of submission was harsh, it was unpopular, but it was the only path to survival.
So the choice is laid out with perfect, brutal clarity. And paradoxically, the path to life is the path of submission. Accepting the yoke means you get to stay on your land and live. Resisting it means choosing exile and death.
And the prophecy finishes in verse 11, not actually with a threat, but with a promise. You see, hidden inside this terrifying ultimatum is a real offer of mercy. The command to submit wasn't just about punishment. It was God providing a pathway for his people to survive the judgment that was about to sweep across the entire region. All of this leaves us with a really difficult and timeless question. We instinctively want to celebrate resistance to see it as heroic, but Jeremiah's message forces us to ask, when might resistance just be another name for self-destruction? And when does true wisdom lie not in fighting an overwhelming reality, but in finding the path to survival within it?